What's going on, guys?
Check.
We are back with episode 4 of the 0 to 3K series, where I will be trying to pug completely solo on a brand new class and spec as a healer that I've never played before. To check out any of
Stop.
the episodes that you may have missed from this series, there is a playlist you can click in the top right hand corner of your screen. If you guys haven't already, then be sure to subscribe and ring the bell. If you want to see some more of my content, then be sure to check out my Twitch at twitch.tv/Newmen_TV, or click the link in the description for some WoW live streams of keys and mythic rating. Alright, time to open up our vault. Now, like usual, we're kind of hoping for tier here. Ideally, probably chest piece, or basically anything but legs, because that might be one of my embellishments. Also, a ring. I'm not really too sure how strong our 2 or 4 pieces, but it's got to be better than nothing. Okay, so this is pretty interesting. There's a staff here that's only on the hero track, but it would save us a lot of crests. But I don't know. I probably won't take it. This neck piece is okay, not the best stats, to be honest. And then there's LFR gloves that are on the veteran track, which I could just catalyze my current one, so probably won't go with those. Okay, yeah, doing a few sims. I think I have decided that I'm gonna go with the sockets necklace. The reason I'm not going with it is the stats just aren't the best. I can farm a better one from Brackenhide Hollow. And yeah, the gloves, I could just catalyze into this. And if you guys didn't know, you actually get a new catalyst charge once a week. So now you have plenty of them by this point in the season. And the weapon, I already bought a weapon with my bullion. So I think we're going to go with the sockets only because we actually have a good helmet and a good ring to socket in. There's a chance I get a myth track helmet at some point, but honestly, that's not the end of the world if we waste one of the sockets. And yeah, so this will actually give us 2 sockets compared to only 1 last season. So it is very valuable. Necklace is a lot of item levels, but I think I'm going to go with the long-term thing to do, which is to buy sockets. Because no matter what, we're going to be keeping this ring for sure, and probably this helmet most likely, unless we get myth track from our vault, which would be the only way that we could get a myth track helmet. And we got a +5 Algathar Academy, which is a pretty easy key, so I'm very happy about that. So to start off today's video, we have to do a few things first. I spent some of the crests from the last video to upgrade my weapon, and since a few of my pieces of gear are likely to stay with me for a while, I want to buy a few enchants and gems. With the 2 new sockets we got, I put them in my helmet and my Broodkeeper ring. I bought a Crit Mastery gem for my ring, and asked in trade chat for a Jewel Crafter to get a epic gem crafted. I went with Mastery and main stat, which I socketed into my helmet. After that, I bought Sophic Devotion for my weapon, and a crit enchant for my ring, before flying over to the Emerald Oathstone to change my Ominous Chromatic Essence to crit. Since it has been 2 more weeks since I spent my last bullions, I am able to get 2 more from raid. I joined an LFR and got them in no time. From what I've read, the most common purchases for me would be to either get an awakened version of my LFR Broodkeeper's Promise, which would allow me to upgrade it to the myth track, but I don't actually have the crest to necessarily do this yet, or I could go with the Aranog damage ring. I think both are good options, but I'm gonna save this decision since I don't really feel like I need the power right now. And I feel like for the current level of keys, we're actually not doing too bad. But I'm gonna leave this for the next episode so that I can also get your guys' thoughts on this. Our first key of the week was a +4 Ruby life pools. Something I learned from you guys in the comments of the last video was that I should be using my fire breath on max charge because it gives me a buff from one of my talents called Leaping Flame, which makes my Living Flame hit an additional 4 targets, which can be used as a mini kind of party heal that actually does a surprising amount to help with the group taking AoE damage.
Feet.
Any tips like this are certainly appreciated since it did make a big difference in my
Charge.
keys. This key went pretty well, even though our rogue did disconnect a few times, but the main big damage dealer was our shaman. After this key, I did notice that a few of my UI parts were a bit off, so I moved around the timers from the Season 4 Dragonflight Dungeons weak aura to just be a little bit higher so that it wouldn't block my target frame. This key we barely missed the 3 chest and got 57 score and a pair of pants from the Augmentation Evoker who didn't need them. The tank asked me if I wanted to do another key, which I was down for, but for some reason he couldn't invite me. I took a break to fix my UI, and when I finally queued up for another key, by some incredible odds, I ended up in the same group. I believe that they were all from the same guild, but this time we were doing a +4 Azure Vault. This key started with us basically immediately wiping from the first pull. We let 3 of the Lasher's casts go off, and then our tank got out of my range pretty fast after leaping away. He then died, but after rezzing we somehow managed to save most of the pull, which meant that it wasn't a complete loss. The route from the tank was actually quite good, and most of the group kind of knew what they were doing. After clearing out the platforms, we all jumped down towards the room with Azure Blade, and cleared out the frogs with relative ease. Our tank then wanted us to skip the final 2 mobs before Telash with a trick that is common this season, especially in Brackenhide. Basically, your tank will pull the mobs while everybody else runs by, and then the tank can either shadow meld if they're a night elf or die. You can then mass res them as long as they're within range. As a healer, you just need to make sure that you don't have any hots on the tank, as this will then put you in combat once the tank attacks the mobs. Umbral Skull was dealt with and we 3-chested the key. We got 63 score, and sadly the tome didn't drop for us, which is a trinket I'm hoping to get during this season if I'm lucky, because it does a ton of damage. We did get the necklace that was in our vault earlier on the champion track. Like I mentioned, the stats are not very good, but it did allow me to upgrade my current neck that has really good stats to the same item level for free. Our third key was a +5 Halls of Infusion. The tank in this key was pretty good at controlling the mobs, which is super important on Fort Week. Few of the Expulse casts went off, and if this was even a +7, it likely would have killed us all, but we weren't there yet. We made our way to the first boss and killed it pretty easily. Our damage was more than enough for this level of key. Somehow our tank was doing 191,000 damage, which was even more than our mage at the time. Like I said, overall pretty good tank. After the boss, I rescued our priest across to the ledge, which is a really cool time saver that I've seen before, and he sent a little bit of a suspicious message. Anyways, we killed the mini boss and then the frog boss. So far, this dungeon feels a lot better to heal on Fort Week versus Tyrannical Week. It feels like there are a few scary moments with Fort Week, but honestly, on Tyrannical Week, if players didn't use defensives well, or even at all, on the second or third boss, then I did feel a little bit helpless, as sometimes they will basically take all their health in less than a second or two. One of the major drawbacks as Evoker though is that you do have a much shorter range than other healers, which is annoying since the most popular tank is Vengeance Demon Hunter, who can easily leap out of your range basically instantly. Another place where the range can be a big problem is with the final mini boss in halls. The best way to make this mob super easy is to stand at max range so that the AoE Frostbolt doesn't hit you. Like I said though, you can't do this as Evoker since you won't be able to heal the rest of your group or do anything if you stand at max range. Luckily, we finished the key and got 69 score. Nice. And I got a pair of boots, but I already have better ones, so probably won't use these. I joined a +7 Brackenhide because I want to try to get some hero track gear in my tier slots so that I can get my 4-piece, since I think this will be the next big upgrade that I can get. This key was alright at best, but luckily the timer is quite forgiving. Our tank died on this pull while I am trying to use Verdant Embrace, and as a truly elite player, I hover away and get stuck in this tent. Our tank got rooted on the first boss, which I never even knew was possible since I didn't actually know that any of the bosses rooted you, so at least I learned something new. This key on Fort Week kind of felt really hard early on, up until about the first boss, and then from there on, I feel like it slowly tapered off in difficulty as you progress, since the last boss and the totem die really fast on Fort Week, and we were able to kill it before it could even get a cast off. No loot for me, but I did get 213 score, since this was my first Brackenhide on either Fort Week or Tyrannical. Our last key of the week was a +5 Academy. To start this off, I went with the crit buff, and we made our way to the tree boss. Luckily, our tank was very geared at about 520. This pull has been something I've been pretty excited to pull since as a DPS it is incredibly fun. Overall, our group did really well with it, and there wasn't even that much to heal, to be honest. The only affix that we have to deal with is storming, which I haven't mentioned to this point because it's one of the easiest and least impactful affixes, but this was one scenario where it actually could have been. If you don't know, when doing this boss, you're supposed to stack and then all move a certain direction at the same time, since swirlies will spawn under you and the mobs will eventually spawn from those swirlies. The only problem was that a tornado had spawned directly on the left, which in my experience is the most common way to go as a group. So I quickly pinged the right side just in case anyone wasn't sure which way we were going to be going. After this, we dealt with the bird boss, which honestly I think we could have done without even stunning the boss, since it wasn't really too hard to heal on Fort Week. Seximus is up next, but before that, I want to show you guys a little trick that you can do to avoid the Ravagers charging to you. If you stand on this little ledge like I am here, when they target you, they won't actually charge to you, but this doesn't work every time. I think you actually have to be really close to the edge for it to work. My best guess is that maybe they won't charge to you if it means that you would get knocked off the edge, but I could be wrong about that. We made our way to the last boss and killed it to complete our 5th key for the week, and we got 195 score, which means that we are now at 1,355 score. So only about 700 score until we reach Keystone Master. Once again, this is where I'm going to end off today's episode. Thank you guys very much for watching. If there's any content you guys want to see other than pugging challenges, be sure to let me know in the comments and make sure to subscribe. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all next time.